We are live.
We are live. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Military Veteran Family Channel. Jesse Almonte here, retired gunnery sergeant, United States Marine Corps.
Charles Prentice, United States Air Force, disabled veteran.
Hoorah! Hey, I just want to say good morning or good afternoon or maybe even a good
Good,
evening,
yep. Good evening, depending
depending.
on where you're at, where
Yeah,
you're located, and
yeah,
when you're watching this.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Exactly. Because I know we have viewers throughout the United States and stuff, and we've been at this little game here for about 2 months now, and I think at the very beginning we had a lot of complications. We had technology issues. We had getting it all together, setting our equipment, figuring out what how everything was going to work. But we're plugging along, and we're not veterans of the VA. We don't work for the VA, and it's a disclaimer that I like to throw out all the time, Charles, because I don't want people to think that we are employed by the VA because we are not employed by the VA,
no,
and we don't want to be employed by the VA. So the information that Charles and I provide to you, it's inside information. It's information that because we work with and talk to a lot of veterans throughout the United States and even dependent families as well, there's a lot of information that comes to us that, we like to get it back to you because you never know when you're going to need to put that or implement whatever we talk about. That'll benefit you, of course. And of course, considering the fact that, there's little over 15 million veterans out there throughout the United States and abroad. There's also millions and millions and millions of dependent families and surviving spouses and patriots out there that are helping veterans do things. And maybe a lot of this information may be to the benefit of you who are actually helping the veteran do things and stuff because I've had people come up to me and said that I helped this veteran maneuver through this process or whatever, and that's what we want to do. We want to be able to. The bottom line, the end result is going to be that the veteran is going to be taken care of in some way, shape, or form, whether it be by the veteran, him or herself, or whether it would be by the surviving spouse, or whether it be with a brother, sister, mother, father, and dad, son, daughter,
hmm
neighbor and friend. I know I currently am helping a neighbor friend of mine that her husband passed a while back, and there's a lot of things attached to that and stuff. And last week we talked about a very important subject matter that
yep.
a lot of a lot of families out there are still not familiar with, and they don't really know that they can, you know, today's market or today's making money nowadays, employment, it's pretty rough out there. Sometimes it could be to the point to where an extra $300 or $400 a month could help in some way, shape, or form. And we want to bring this in. We brought the information of the subject matter of what's called the dependency and
Indemnity
indemnity compensation,
yep. Or the DIC.
DIC, aka DIC. And that's to the benefit that works for the surviving family of the military veteran who is no longer here with us, who has moved on for another mission. And uh, put it in perspective is that we don't have to be broke completely if we happen to be a surviving spouse, if we know what steps and measures we can take in order for us to get compensation that would have gone to the veteran, but in essence, it could come back to the surviving spouse or the family member and stuff. And this information, we brought a lot of it to you last week,
hmm
but we felt that it was way too much. I mean,
Yeah, we
yeah,
basically gave you, if you get the open up the VA pamphlet,
yeah, yeah,
that thick dictionary looking thing, that
yeah.
thick encyclopedia thing. We basically brought you that whole encyclopedic version. So what we're going to try to do today is we're going to try to give you the Reader's Digest for those of us older folks.
Yeah,
Those the Reader's Digest condensed version. So
yeah,
you're not having to read War and Peace. You can turn around and
right, right,
months later, weeks later, days later,
right.
or if you're connecting with us right now, but it's still, you can turn around and go, hey, those veteran guys, that military veteran family channel guys, those guys gave me had some good information. This is the condensed version of that information.
Yeah, and then again, it's information that we share with each other, amongst each other. It's information we get from other veterans, other surviving spouses. There's nothing to the point to where we're going to be able to help you 100% because there's certain requirements from the VA that folks like us, Charles and I, because we're not so-called accredited, we can't take additional steps to move you along the process, but we can give you information on how to get to that
Mm-hmm.
process, and then you can take it from there because it's a matter of just leading you to that area where you need to go to, and then from there on out, hey, everything should be a piece of cake. But anyway, DIC obviously it's generally a monthly compensation for individuals who lost their veteran other loved ones, and it's an application process that everyone has to do. When you apply for money, when you apply for a loan or anything else, you have to fill out information.
Yep.
There ain't
Got to
no
have the
there ain't no way
paperwork.
about it. You have to have paperwork. You have to get it together. But we say this because the more prepared you are, the better or the smoother the things are going to run for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to a point to where they don't give you is due tomorrow or is due next week or is due next month time frames. It's pretty much at your own pace, but what you're going to be looking at is the longer you take to submit, the longer you're going to get the compensation.
Right.
But there's also requirements that, not requirements, but there's also a process that if you do it ahead of time.
And one of the first things you want to do is get your foot in the door.
Here you go, Charles. Get your foot in the door. Charles is letting everyone know that this is your first step.
That's
literally.
right. You need to get your foot in the door.
Get your foot in the door. And
because you can gather a whole bunch of paperwork, Jesse, but if you're not in the system,
yeah,
it's not going to do you any good. You've
yeah,
got a lot of paperwork.
It's called a pile of paperwork.
Yeah, and you're not in the system, so get in the system.
Yeah.
Get your foot in the door.
Yeah. Now, are you required to get in the door? Not really. There's nothing that says you have to get in the door. You can start your paperwork and take 3 months to do it.
Yeah.
But if your foot hasn't been in the door yet, 3 months will
3
just
months
be
of money that you've left
3
on
months
the table.
of money. 3 months that you've left money on the table.
Yep.
Because the minute you get your foot in the door, you initiate the process, your clock starts, and it's just like a veteran applying for a claim. It's called an intent to file.
Yep.
So if we call, the 800 number, 1-827-1000, if we call that number, we just basically say, hey, look, I'm a surviving spouse. I want to submit for DIC.
Yep.
That they'll annotate that. Of course, they'll get your information and so on. They'll annotate that. They'll send you a confirmation letter, and your clock starts ticking.
Mm-hmm.
So now, if you took 3 months to complete all your paperwork, guess what? You're going to get 3 months compensated back because you did an intent to file. You started it and you did. But if you didn't start it and you just submit right off the bat, you're not going to get any back compensation. So that's one of the key things to remember. And the more paperwork you have when you do get ready to submit, the better off you're going to be. They call it or consider that being a fully developed claim.
Yeah.
Meaning that it's not going to leave no room for interpretation for a rater to say, well, it's missing ABC, because hopefully you'll have the ABC already in your package and stuff. So there's certain things that you need to have that are at your disposal right now, or could be at your disposal sooner the better.
Hopefully,
if your loved one has passed, you're going to need a death certificate, an official death certificate.
Yep.
Yeah. Get a folder first of all. Grab a folder. Go get your death certificate. Drop it in that folder. Call it drop filing. You just drop it in that folder. Okay. You do the same thing for you. What, Charles? What else?
Marriage certificate.
Marriage certificate.
If you're claiming that you're married to this spouse, well, you got to have that proof. That's even, with, say, you having a percentage going down and filing DEERs. To have your spouse, if you're at 100%, you can get the little military dependent card.
There you go.
So,
Yeah. There's
and
a
you
lot of
have to have marriage certificate
yeah.
to
So
do
there,
that.
there's a lot of rewards per se in having these things together because
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, again, these are things that you may already have right now, and which is okay, but put them all in one spot.
Yep.
Put them in your drop file and hold on to them. Some of these are already at your reach. You can open up a drawer, take it out, and slide it in. And if you're organized and you have all your information in one folder, well, maybe get that form that you need out of that folder and drop it on your in what I call or consider a working file.
Yep.
That's going to be a working file. That's what you're going to work with
What?
because as you
Yep.
move along, you're going to need that documentation for
Now
certain forms.
I'm going to hit one of the main ones.
Oh,
And this one, if you don't have this one, you need to do your research to figure out how you're supposed to get one. Because as a veteran, your veteran spouse is supposed to have one because they received one when they got out, and that's the DD Form 214.
yeah, DD 214. Yeah, you got to have that. Not only do you have to have a DD Form 214, but when we separate from the military, we get a DD 214, but sometimes it comes in carbon copies, and there's two or three DD 214s attached to it. They're all labeled DD 214, but on the bottom of the DD 214, it has part. Let me look. Let me get this. I have a DD 214. I always keep it handy. On the bottom of it says copy 4. So that's the one you need. Copy 4. So if you happen to find a DD214 in a drawer and it's got two or three other DD214s attached to it, locate the one that says copy 4. The reason you want the copy 4 because that's the one that outlines everything about your service member's involvement with the military. The day he came in, the day he came out, the certificates, the awards, everything that he got or she got are annotated in these DD214s. The other portion, the other DD214 may be a half a sheet. So that may not have all the information you need. So you're
Right.
looking for copy 4 when you find that DD214. Just kind of keep that in mind. Throw that in your drop file as well and just leave it there. Don't, just
Mm-hmm.
drop it. You're doing research now. And before you get yourself all together, make sure that you are utilizing what I call or refer to as a draft, maybe a draft outline of notes that you could get together. Like start writing notes to yourself. If you don't have the DD 214, write down where can I obtain my DD 214.
Mm-hmm.
And your veteran service officers, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, may be able to guide you and direct you to that, which we highly recommend that you do get professional assistance anyway.
Now here's something that I will say that I think that you need to do. Make sure you make copies of these things. You don't want to take the actual death certificate, that main one that you've gotten,
Right.
or your marriage certificate, or that main copy of the DD Form 214, and give that out to somebody else
Oh yeah.
with your paperwork. So you make sure you make copies of these things and have, if your spouse is still surviving, that DD Form 214 with a lot of stuff that you do, they ask for that. Now, fortunately, a lot of these things are online, so you can
Yeah, yeah.
scan it in. But that's you want
Which brings up a very, very, very good point right now. Let's say your spouse is still with you,
to. Mm-hmm.
and you and your spouse get together, and between both you and your spouses, you can find these forums because sometimes it gets a little complicated when you're trying to, as a surviving spouse, to look for all these documents on your own. I'd always say plan and prepare, just like you do a will and a trust and all that. You plan ahead of time. I always say that if you're a military member and you spend time in the military, and you, especially if you have a service connection, you should start getting that paperwork together anyway, because
Mm-hmm.
you'll never know when you're going to need it to file your own claim anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are some of the things that you're going to need yourself as a veteran. And then that way, if you, unfortunately, we pass. If we pass, then at least your surviving partner will have some of the information that she or he needs to be able to get themselves
Yeah,
started and stuff. So
we do old school at our house,
yeah,
and it's actually in our bedroom. We have a big filing cabinet, but it looks really nice, and it matches my wife's dresser, so it's sitting right next to the dresser. But she's got all of that information
yeah.
in there.
You would be surprised what kind of information that you would come up with when you start digging through. I've known a lot of service members, and unfortunately, we file. I mean, my wife is always on me. She's like the file queen. She files everything. I want things where I put them. They're all organized. I get it. And sometimes I go pull a file out and I forget to put it back in, and boy, I catch all kinds of hell. And my wife will say, "What did you do with that file?" Well, but you want to get those files together. I say this because you're going to have this kind of reactions with your spouse when she starts saying, "I already
Well,
had it all in
especially
the
if she's
file."
the file queen.
Yeah, she's a file queen. Yeah, but there are some required forms that you need. There's a I'll give you a couple of forms here just so kind of you can get an idea of what I'm going to refer to here in a minute. There's a VA form 21P 534EZ. Okay, so that's a form for a specific kind of filing that you need. So let's say you were going to file for that specific kind of filing. Find that form on the internet, which, by the way, you can go to the VA website and you can type in VA forms, and
Yep.
they'll give you all the forms that you
Hmm.
need. And I would recommend that you make a blank copy, print out a blank copy of that form. And the reason I say that is because that form is just a form, which has already got a lot of questions, information, and stuff, and you can pre-enter any information on those forms right now.
Hmm.
You can just start filling it, whatever you can remember, or whatever you have information on. You can start filling out. And remember, these are not the actual forms that you're going to submit.
Right.
These are your working copies.
Hmm.
So you start filling out these forms, and if you need another different form, you fill it out the form. You fill out the
Yep.
form, and again, these are your draft copies.
Yep. Because back
Uh,
in back in the day, when every year you had to file for clothing allowance through the VA,
hmm,
I turned around and went on the VA website, found the form, and downloaded it onto my computer. So that way, all I had to do is pull it up on the computer. I
revise
could
it,
I could revise it, fill it out,
send it back in.
run it through my printer, take it into the VA, or
Yeah,
send it into the VA. But it's one of
yeah, it
those
helps.
things. Go ahead, you know it's going to happen.
Yeah,
Start now with these forms.
yeah. Start now because you'll never know what research you're going to have to do to find a specific
Hmm.
form to begin with, and again, we're going to go back to recommend to you your help that you need. You can There's help out there where people will charge you for these kind of things. You don't want to pay people for this. Yeah, I mean, really, it's not something that you need to spend your money on.
Hmm.
There is help out there, and we recommend that you get that help. That way, it'll help you maneuver through what forms you actually need, and you don't have to be scratching your head thinking, well, what forms do I need in order for me to be able to authorize somebody to help me? Because there is a form for that as well too.
Yep.
You got to fill that form out to authorize somebody to help you.
Right.
So I would say make a phone call to your closest Veterans Administration office. They can direct you. They'll probably refer you to VSOs out in your area, maybe, for example, VFW, American Legions, DAV, and then you can tell them what you want.
Right.
And what you're looking for and what's happening and where you're at with things, and they can still help. They can start helping you move along through that process.
Yep.
They're going to do what Charles and I are doing. They're going to help guide you. But what we're doing basically is we're kind of getting you into that door, getting your foot in that
That's
door,
right. I don't
so
need to
you can
take
be ready.
I can take the other foot off too if I need to show you that one
Yeah,
too.
yeah, of course. And then again, we're gonna go through, and you're gonna need a lot of stuff. It's one of these things to where if you locate a form that you want, make a copy of that form, do a copy of it, start writing on it so you can fill out information. That's not the form you're gonna submit, but that's the form that you're gonna start keeping a draft copy of,
Right.
because the more information you can input into that form, the better off you will be when you start filing for your claim, and you start, all you need to do is transfer that information to the actual form, and that'll save you so much time. Save you so much time and stuff. Other documents that you're going to need besides your DD 214 that we talked about. Obviously, remember copy 4 is the one that you want to focus in on.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need to have, if your spouse has passed on, you're going to need to have the proof of death, which is the death certificate.
Yep.
Right.
And like we talked about last time, one of those things that you can look at, because if they do just a generic thing on the death certificate,
Yeah.
That happened with my sister. It was just very generic,
Right.
and when she was filing with the VA, they were like, "Well, that doesn't show anything," and so she went back to the doctor, and they changed the death certificate, which proved that
Right.
it was service connected.
Okay.
And so that's one of those things, because if it's something just, you a coronary, or, embolism, or something that might not be
Considered.
considered service connected,
Okay.
but for a fact it's service connected, they can change that.
Okay.
So that's one of those things, so that you have that proof of death, the death certificate,
Right.
but you want to make sure that
Yeah.
it's service connected.
So what I'm hearing you say, Charles, is that there's a primary cause of death.
Mm-hmm.
That, let's say a heart attack. You have a heart attack,
Mm-hmm.
and that's your primary cause of death. And that's what they put on the death certificate and stuff, and they fill it out and they give it to you. But on that death certificate, there's what they call a Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
A Part 2 is any other medical
Contributing
issue,
factors. Yeah.
problem that the individual may have been having. You, between yourself and your medical officer, whoever does that, you should be discussing that and telling them, look, these are other potential things that may have affected that heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Stress, anxiety, now all kinds of things that could be put in that Part 2, because again, like Charles said, that could be easily connected to your service connection.
That's right.
And you don't want to do that, because that's what a lot of people, when they file and all they read is a heart attack, well, everybody has a heart attack. But on the secondary, on the Part 2, it also says other contributing factors
Mm-hmm.
to the death could have been, could have been stroke, it could have been respiratory issues, it could have been those kind of things. And those things that I'm referring to right now happen to be service connections.
Mm-hmm.
And when you submit the claim and the rater is looking at it, it's going to be obvious, especially if you're World War II or Vietnam era, or even Gulf War era veterans, when they talked about the
The
pits.
presumptive,
The
where your presumptive issues, and there's list of those.
Right.
So it's just added stuff that helps with your claim.
Right.
For your DIC claim.
Right. So you want to look at all that. It's important that you do. And again, we're sending you on a research mode that some of you may take maybe a couple hours to complete. Others of you may take a couple of days, maybe even a couple of weeks, because you may have to send for some of these forms. You may have to wait for your medical doctor to do a revision on your death certificate, because not all the information was annotated in there, and now you're going to need it. And do not submit the paperwork until that certificate is complete, because they're going to be looking for completeness on that, because you can very easily get a denial, because it doesn't really tell them anything. There's no service connection potentials and so on. So that's part of that. I think that would probably be one of the biggest things to look for.
Yep,
to make sure that happens.
Like we mentioned earlier, you don't have to have all your paperwork complete when you do your intent to file, but when you actually file that paperwork,
right.
That's when you want to have your ducks in a row.
Right. And once you get that information, throw it in the drop box. The drop file. And you're getting it together. Again, you're getting a package together here. You're going to need proof of marriage, if you were married or not.
That's true.
And I'm going to tell you something right now that you may not be aware of. Other individuals that have been married to your spouse previously, they may be able to jump in on this claim as well, too. And you're going to have to check with your veteran service officers to see what the guidelines on that is. because it happens. It really does happen. Another individual could come in, submit that claim before you submit the claim, or maybe submit the claim and get a portion of it before you even go do that. So you want to make sure that you've got a clear marriage certificate, everything's all been taken care of. I mean, that's required. Prior marriage records is what they're going to need
Hmm.
from you as well. When you got married, the date you got married, your dissolution of marriage, divorce papers, and all that other good stuff. Have all that handy. I have a couple of those sets myself put aside as well too. So dependent information. If you have children in a family right now, and they're under the age of 23 and going to school. Remember, the age limit is 23 when you file for children and dependents as well. They've got to be no older than 23, but they have to be in school. So you're going to need that information, birth certificates. You're going to need children's records, maybe not medical records or anything, but just basically birth certificates for them
Yep.
as well. So that's
Or
proper.
adoption records if
Yeah,
they were adopted
if they were
children.
adopted children and stuff. Uh,
VA
Manic.
Form 21-4138 is statement in support of claims. So you're going to need medical evidence.
Yeah, statement in support. That's the big form right there. The medical evidence form.
Hmm.
VA Form 21-4138. Again, you can Google these forms. You can say, what forms do I need to file a DIC claim, and they'll pop up all of the forms that you need for that. But you're not gonna submit those forms. You're gonna use them for your own purpose of reading through them.
Right.
Read through them thoroughly, understand what they're asking of you, and make sure that you put that information in there as they need it, because they're very self-explanatory. I need this, I need that, this is what you want, when did this happen, and just fill in the blanks. That's all you pretty much have to do. But again, you already downloaded the draft copy, so or a copy, and all you're using that one there is for a draft anyway,
Hmm.
just so you can start annotating and getting that information in there together. I get a lot of questions about my bank information. Why do they want my banking information,
Well, we
Charles?
don't send out checks anymore, or they
That's right.
or they're trying to get away from that.
Okay.
For the most part, with most compensation that you get is all direct deposit. Um,
Yeah.
they're not sending it to you. Obviously, I saw a thing the other day ago where some of these people don't have banking accounts, and so Social Security
Oh, yeah. No
does a
kidding, huh?
credit card, I
Yeah.
guess, and all the money goes onto your credit card. Now
Yeah.
that's no, I don't.
They'll
Just
send you the.
send it to my bank account.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the reason why. Exactly the reason why they're going to ask you for your bank, your routing number, your bank account. Now, if you don't have a bank account right now, currently, maybe it'd behoove of opening up an account right now if you're going through that process,
Right.
and throw in a couple $100 in, or maybe $15-$20 in there, just so you can have an actual account. Because if a determination is made that you are going to be getting some sort of compensation, they're not going to call you, they're not going to notify you, they're not going to do anything. They're not gonna. Hey, by the way, Charles, you're gonna get $3,000 in your. We're gonna send you $3,000 in your bank. They're not gonna call you. They're gonna send it directly to the bank, and maybe 3 or 4 days later, there's gonna be a letter that's gonna be followed and telling you that you're gonna get that. But
Yeah.
then you've already had that money in the bank and you didn't even know it.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's longer than that when when the
Sometimes it's
letter
longer,
shows
but let's
up.
hope it doesn't take that long. But I mean, if you have a fully developed claim, which we talked about at the beginning of the session here, meaning that you have all the information that you need already set aside, and come on, we're human beings. We may not have all the information the first time around.
Right.
And if we don't have the information the first time around, what the VA is going to do is they're going to send you a letter. If they decline, if they say, no, it's not going to make it, they're going to send you an explanation as to why they declined it.
Hmm.
And all you need to do is answer the questions and go back and respond back to whatever deficiencies were on that claim and resubmit.
Yep.
Again, you want to make sure that you utilize the assistance of an accredited VSO and stuff, and make sure that you have good faith and confidence in this person that's helping you, because they're the ones that are setting you, to the point to where they're gonna help you make this happen. And when it's just like your lender from the when you're buying a home, the lender is going to make it happen. He's going to make sure that you get the money that you need to buy the home. The good loan is not going to be something that you're going to be paying 20% interest on. You have to pay high interest anyway as it is, but you're going to have good faith and confidence on that individual to be able to do that.
Right.
So you have to have that. Look at your claims very carefully. Look at the information that you have. Personal records. If you have military records of your uh, uh, spouse right now, and you have them someplace to where you can pull them out, you would be surprised how much information are in those service records. Because, and I'll give you an example, is that if you are claiming for DIC because your husband or your wife or your mother, brother, father, sister were in Vietnam, and they had a presumptive claim coming to them because of Agent Orange, and your medical records don't indicate that he's ever been treated for any of such thing, but your service record says that you were in Vietnam or close to Vietnam or in the area or whatever, that makes the connection right there
Right.
for you.
Yep. Those
So
people that you didn't have to be in country, but you could be in support.
right, you could have been in support. You could have
Hmm.
been miles, I mean, hundreds of thousands of miles away from Vietnam. But maybe you were in a place somewhere in the United States where the trucks were coming in from Vietnam,
Yep.
and you were a motor vehicle mechanic, and you
But
were fixing these trucks.
yeah, but
So
if you're being
yeah,
compensated through the VA
right,
and it tells you that it's service connected, even though it doesn't say that in your military
right,
um,
and treatment
records,
records,
your
yeah,
treatment records,
yeah.
but it
So
already has that connection. That's you make sure you get that paperwork,
so if
put that
you
in your file.
And you can get these medical or military service records. If you have an issue trying to get them directly from your prospective branch, you can contact your congressman, your local congressman office,
Hmm.
and they will help you obtain these records for you. Not only your medical records, your service medical records, but also your military records as well too. So it's one of these things to where the more you have in your possession, now you're not going to be submitting all of these things in. It's not going to happen. You're not going to send everything in. You're going to take whatever information you need out of everything that you've gathered. And that's going to go specifically on those forms that you've downloaded and you're filling and completing out. You're just going to have your backup information, your service records, medical records, and all that in case they need to go back and refer, or in case they need a copy of it, or if something in that medical record or that service record is of significance to be a supporting document, then you can go ahead and make a copy of that and attach it to your claim and send that in as well too.
Yep.
So these are just some of the things that we want you to make sure that you have together. And one of the other things, Charles, that a lot of people really don't think about, service records. You will always talk service records, medical records, and all that, but we never talk about sometimes we never talk about medical records in existence today.
Hmm.
Where you're going to the doctor, whether you have a private physician, whether you have a primary physician, or because at some point in time your medical information of you being in service has been recorded in those documents. Like you can go to a doctor today and the doctor will ask you, well, how long have you had that problem, your respiratory problem, for example? And you say, well, I remember it was back when I was in the military, when I was in Afghanistan, or I was in Vietnam, I mean, you're creating or talking about having the most current service medical record that's going to make that connection for you.
Right.
And that's important to not forget about those medical records as well, too.
Right.
Yeah, and other statements that might be very valuable to you would be something like what, Charles?
Um, your
What?
lay buddy statement, VA form 21 dash 10 210. It's a lay or witness statement to provide personal or witness accounts of, you know, when you got injured.
Yeah.
Say me and you were together in the military, and we were loading something, and something went wrong, and I saw you get hit by that forklift
Right.
that
Right.
injured your leg.
My witness, right here,
Yep.
my witness. That's a lay statement. My witness is going to testify to the effect that I got hit by a crane as we were jumping off the trucks, and that created an injury for me. And it may not have had a lot of effect to me then,
Oh, you didn't
right?
think it had effect to
Yeah,
you
it may
then,
have just
but
cracked me in the head, and I got a couple of stitches, and I went on my merry own way. And all of a sudden, 20 years later, my head is bursting at the seams, and I've got headaches, and all this other stuff is happening. And I called Charles up. Hey, Charles, I know I haven't seen you in 30 years, but hey,
you
do you
remember when?
remember
Yep.
when? And Charles, oh yeah, I remember, man. We laughed like crazy.
Yeah.
We
Still
were
laughing at you about
yeah, I'd add, Charles, can you write me a statement to that effect? What
it.
happened? What did you see? That's a lay statement. That's a buddy statement.
Yep.
Or your spouse or your brother or your sister, they saw something crazy going on,
Mm-hmm.
and they know that it's service connected or it
Yep.
happened back. Let them write that down, because those are also things that you do not want to forget about.
Right.
You know, and if you know, if I was submitting for that claim, and I know Charles knew my wife, and I'd say, well, can you write me a statement, Charles? My wife had a service connection, and so on and so on, and that could work in that benefit as well too when you're
Yep.
submitting for that DIC and stuff, because now uh, those of us who have been in the military for a longer period of time and have been out for a longer period of time, we don't have these kind of immediate what do you call it, delivery of our most current medical records and stuff, because I mean they're old. They're archived somewhere in the dinosaur field,
they're on they're on
they're in the
microfiche.
cave.
They're on
But
microfiche somewhere.
yeah. So I mean, we make a joke out of it and stuff, but understand that this is one of these other things that you don't want to forget. Your private medical records, for most current stuff that's been happening to you. Your lay statements of people. Now, are you going to need all of these things?
Not necessarily.
Probably not. But yeah,
But it's a matter of the more information that you
right,
have that's relevant to your claim,
right.
the better it is.
If somebody says, I don't have enough evidence that your husband got hit by a crane, you need to supply additional evidence, or not enough. Well, you can if you have to if you have to go back and appeal this, then you can go back and contact whomever may know them and have them do a lay statement and
Yep.
stuff. It'd be better to have the lay statement already in hand. That way, if that's, believe it or not, that is a supporting document. That is something that should go with the claim anyway.
Right.
That way, they don't have to come back and ask you for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we covered a lot of stuff, Charles. I mean, there's so much information out there for people, and again, we're not trying to file your claim or anything like that. We are planting the seed. We want you to be aware that if you have compensation coming to you by way of DIC, if you're a surviving spouse or an aunt, uncle, mother, father, parent or whatever, and you're applying for this, it'd behoove for you to at least get a little bit of information. Don't be afraid to put that foot in the door and
Right.
start going, because I'm not saying that it's ever going to go away, and there is no time limit as to when you can file for this. But the longer you wait, the more you forget, and the more information you have to dig out.
Mm-hmm.
And when the years go by, and you've got rid of the boxes, or you don't know where you left them at, and all the stuff was in there, you kind of have a tendency of losing things along the way. So you're better off trying to get everything researched now. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you're not ready to apply right now, the first thing you do want to do is you just want to go ahead and submit that intent to file.
Right.
We tell that even to our veterans that we talk to and stuff. They even tell me, have you filed? They'll come up to me and they'll ask me. Veterans talking to veterans, this is. We talk amongst each other.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about experiences, and we try to make things easier for the next veteran to apply for. So if I catch wind on something, and I know that another veteran was looking for that information, I'll give it to him.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, hey, look, I watched that military veteran channel, family channel, and this is what this is. You go back and look at it, and this is what they're telling you is that you got to do A, B, C, D, and stuff. And again, we do recommend that if you find yourself in this situation and you want to file a claim for DIC, and I know we talked about last week, we talked about all about DIC and we gave you too much information, but we didn't give you the nuts and bolts of it as to how to take that step
Right.
and move in with it. And this is what we're hoping to do this week and stuff. So even if you see this in a couple months from now, information is not going to change.
Nope.
It'll be the same.
Yep. We've broken it down, and
Yeah.
you know, like Gunny said earlier, you go to the VA website, say what forms do I need for DIC, or heck, you could probably just Google it,
Yeah, you can
and
Google it. It's fun.
Google will come out with you need this form, this form, this form. This is the information, and we're just trying to break it down to say, hey, there's information out there that you need to get, things that you need to do. Start your file, but mainly go ahead and get your foot in the door. I'm not going to take off the other foot, but get your foot in the door. That intent to file,
Yeah.
so that you're not leaving money on the table in the long
Yeah.
run. It's already in there, and so they go back to that point of intent to file
Yeah.
when it all comes to fruition.
Yeah, and once the smoke clears and you get that extra $1,000 a month or whatever, I mean, you've actually done work for it. It's the same thing of going to college and getting a certificate for accounting and having a job in accounting and getting a job.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like once you start getting this compensation, it could be a lifetime thing for
Yep.
you. I mean, it could be something that you don't even have to go to college for because you don't. You just have to file. You just have to do all this stuff, and you'll still get compensated.
Yep.
So I hope we were able to bring you a little bit more in continuance to last week's show. And I hope that you do really think about it and discuss it and stuff. Don't wait too long, but really think about it. This is the benefit that a lot of individuals out there are not taking advantage of, basically because they don't get the information. Nobody tells them, or they don't really know. So we want to plant the seed for you today, and we want you to kind of. And if all else fails, go back and just contact the VSO and let them tell you everything about what we just told you, and that's okay too,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can just take it from there.
And remember, this is the Military Veteran Family Channel.
That's right.
Like, subscribe, share.
Yeah, you have a blessed week. We hope to see you next week.
And I
Have
was going to tell you peace, love, but Jesse doesn't like steak, so I was going to tell you eat steak. So
peace, love for everyone.
Peace, love out. Have a great one. Have a
All
blessed
right,
one.
take care.